Wisdom cries aloud in the streets, raises her voice in the squares. At the head of the busy streets she calls. At the entrance of the gates in the city she speaks out. How long will you simple ones love simplicity? You scoffers, be eager to scoff. You dullards, hate knowledge. You are indifferent to my rebuke. I will now speak my mind to you and let you know my thoughts. Since you refused me when I called, and paid no heed when I extended my hand, you spurned all my advice and would not hear my rebuke. I will laugh at your calamity and mock when terror comes upon you, when terror comes like a disaster and calamity arrives like a whirlwind. When trouble and distress come upon you, they shall call me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me, but not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose fear of the Lord. They refused my advice and disdained all my rebukes. They shall eat the fruit of their ways and have the fill of their own counsels. The tranquility of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of dullards will destroy them. But he who listens to me will dwell in safety, untroubled by the terror of misfortune. Grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of the Lord lives forever. And this is the word of the Lord. All thanks be to God. Wisdom speaks. Wisdom cries aloud in the streets. So what is it saying? What is it saying? Pardon me, that's not right. What is she saying? In Greek, her name is Sophia. Our word philosophy comes from her, philosophia. In Istanbul, the church at the center of the Eastern Roman Empire is the Hagia Sophia, holy wisdom. In ancient Greek mythology, Sophia likes to hang out with the girls, with her friends, knowledge, intelligence, and excellence. In Hebrew, as we find the original language in Proverbs, the word is chokmah. Chokmah is not a name, but Lady Wisdom was never completely personified in Hebrew as she was in Greek, actually being like a goddess or something. Chokmah is the Hebrew word meaning wisdom, except it's a more broad understanding of wisdom. So instead of wisdom hanging out with knowledge, intelligence, and excellence, all that is part of this word for wisdom. All that is included in wisdom. And in Hebrew, they embraced this wisdom stuff in this broader context as something from God, something directly from God, yet they still did consider this something feminine. And this time, that definition in being the broader definition, but this word, it's a feminine word. Like in Spanish or other languages, there is male and female words, and this word for wisdom is a female word. So this wisdom aspect of God is a feminine attribute. Today, she is personified. She does get kind of personified in the Hebrew text like she does in Proverbs here, but this is about as far as it goes. She's not actually a goddess or something apart from God, from the presence of God, but here she's personified as a woman hollering out in the middle of town with some wisdom that we all need to hear pretty desperately. Chokmah may not be entirely personified, but she is very much a lady, and she's got some very important things to say. So what is Lady Wisdom up to right now as we see in Proverbs? She is speaking loudly. She's in the middle of town square. She's in the busiest intersection, blocking traffic. She's crying out for anyone to listen. Lady Wisdom is hollering out in ways that question how we live, our morality, our values, what it means that we're here in the first place, what constitutes right versus wrong behavior, how to come out where we want to come out in life as opposed to where we don't want to come out in life. All of which is based on what we find in verse 29. The fear of the Lord. To get to know Lady Wisdom, according to the Bible, it helps to have a starting place. This wisdom comes as a big, big concept. But there's a starting place, and it helps to remember that, to get introduced to Lady Wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, without a proper starting place, it's easy to get lost along the way, right? If we think about it in terms of flying, because I'm such an accomplished pilot now, having clocked a significant amount of time flying in my computerized video game Imagination Land version of flying an airplane on the simulator. If we think about this in terms of flying, navigating from one place to another, you follow a heading, right? Like go towards 55 degrees or whatever to get from this place to that place. That heading is based on your starting place and then based on where you're hoping to end up. If you follow that heading from the wrong starting place, you're going to end up at the wrong ending place. And then also, while you're flying, wind can push you away from your heading and get you off course. Not to mention when you do stuff like I do and just kind of stop paying attention and realize a little bit later that you've been going the wrong way and you got to figure out where you are. Well, in a slow airplane, you get off 1 degree, and after an hour, you are a full mile off your target. In a faster plane, you get off a lot further off, a whole lot faster. If and when you do get off course, it's already well past time to start looking around, seeing the signs, landmarks, stuff to figure out where you are so you can figure out where it is you're trying to go again. Simple enough, right? If only living right in this world was as easy as flying. Start where you're supposed to start. Remember your starting place. Adjust along the way for any winds trying to blow you off course. And remember where you're going. That is definitely something Lady Wisdom is hollering out to us today. Remember your starting place, the fear of the Lord. You want wisdom? Start by thinking about your fear of the Lord. What does that mean to you? How does the fear of the Lord factor into your life? How does it factor into your decision making, your responses to whatever happens to you at any random moment? As Christians, we've got quick answers to this whole fear of the Lord. Do you fear the Lord? Well, yeah, of course I do. Next question. I'm ready to go. I fear the Lord. I'm a believer, period. All right, don't have to think too much about that. Wait a second. Slow it down. How does your life show that you fear the Lord? Now, when we're talking about fear of the Lord, of course, we're not talking about fear as in like fear of Freddy Krueger or Friday the 13th or something. It's not that kind of fear. We're talking about fear like of the ocean where you can understand just a little bit of it. You can respect the power of it and respect the size of it and appreciate that and have a healthy fear of it. We're talking about a healthy fear of the Lord. And that's your homework this week. I like this homework thing. I'm starting to have fun with this. Set 5 minutes aside. Set 5 minutes aside to do nothing else but to think, pray, and listen to yourself and to God in the form of Lady Wisdom or whatever. To think, pray, and listen about fear of the Lord in your life. What does it mean that you fear the Lord? And how does that manifest in your life? What does it actually mean? Lady Wisdom in the passage today is responding to the problem of people not taking that seriously. Wisdom at all, and not to mention the starting place of fear of the Lord. She's frustrated. She's angry. She's yelling at the top of her lungs. She's telling us that she has been telling us for a long, long, long time, over and over and over again. She's been speaking the truths we need to hear. People haven't been listening. Maybe some have been listening, but not enough. In the first half of today's chapter, you saw we picked up at verse 20. In the first half of the chapter that we didn't read, she's calling out to us, teaching, fear the Lord. Learn from your elders. Guard yourselves from temptation. The wind's trying to blow us off course. Guard yourselves from temptation. She gives a heavy example of what it means to fall into temptation. It's like a very, very heavy, dark kind of example of joining a group of bandits waiting alongside the road to ambush, rob, and murder innocent people. Maybe not something we're tempted to do every day here in New Pal, and not something that may happen literally, every day around our own communities, but there's definitely communities around where these kind of things do still happen very literally and very often, and beyond that we can take this metaphorically. We don't have to think about it completely literally. Obviously, as she's told us many times before, whether it's the temptations are heavy like murder or something, or they're light like just saying something mean to somebody, hurting them. As James talks about, the power of the tongue. Lady Wisdom is calling us to think about the bigger picture. To think about how bad stuff comes back around in an endless amount of ways. So if our goal is to have bad stuff happening around us and to us, then go ahead and act bad. If you want stuff happening good, then do good. So she's yelling at the top of her lungs. This is not a new lesson. This is an old lesson. She's tired of seeing us suffer. She's tired of us, of the fate that we make for ourselves. We live in a world where we ambush, rob, and murder each other all the time, whether you take that literally or metaphorically. Not only to each other, we're also doing that to the earth itself, to creation itself. And Lady Wisdom is hollering at the top of her lungs, stop it! Stop being so simple. Stop scoffing at each other. Stop being so dull. It only comes around to make you suffer. In the bigger picture, it makes victim and perpetrator alike suffer. It makes everybody suffer. And I'm tired of seeing you suffer. But fine, if you refuse me, again, as you have so many times already, you spurn my advice again, you ignore my rebuke again, then fine, suffer. All I have left to do is laugh in unbelief over how dull you insist on being when you know you're smarter than that. But those of you who listen, however, you will find success, righteousness, justice, equity, intelligence, foresight, excellence, and gaining new wisdom every day. The choice laid out for us is very clear. One leads to disaster and one leads to good things. There's actually another woman who shows up later in Proverbs who's not Lady Wisdom. This is another woman who shows up. And she's hollering for our attention, kind of similar to Lady Wisdom, but she's saying very different stuff. In a way, it's kind of like that Greek idea of the women representing different parts of that greater idea of wisdom. Except here, it's not different parts of the wisdom. Here, it's just Lady Wisdom and then her complete opposite. One represents virtue and wisdom. One represents vice and foolishness. Proverbs brings this to life as being another woman, and both these women are speaking to us. And it's not about the roles of men versus women. It's not about how women are necessarily virtuous or women are necessarily foolish or anything like that. It's just a way to bring these teachings to life for us. And this is actually written as a direct teaching from like a father to his son. And with listening to Lady Wisdom is kind of like saying, listen to your mother, son. To be shaped by his mother as, a mother shapes a child with wisdom. And to reject anything else that doesn't work with this. Reject what obviously brings on disaster. Reject vice and folly. Stuff like your own counsel. Insisting on your own ways. Being complacent to the suffering of other people. Stuff that is all just disaster waiting to happen. What do we want to see in the bigger picture is the question for us. Us going down the wrong path of vice and foolishness, or us going down the right path of humility, righteousness, justice, and equity. But like that, it sounds like an easy choice. It's a lot harder to decide the right thing in real life. Something to think about in your 5 minutes of homework this week. So, the beginning of wisdom. How do you show your fear of the Lord? What does that mean in your life? Thinking of fear in the Lord in Lady Wisdom's terms, if you listen when the Lord speaks to you, then you are showing your fear of the Lord. If you're listening to what Lady Wisdom is hollering out in the streets, it will show. If we do actually have a healthy fear of the Lord, if we do remember where we started from, if we remember to adjust along the way, we remember where we're going, it will show in our lives. And another good way to hear Lady Wisdom speak is through the book of James today. As we heard from him earlier about being very careful about how we speak. As he teaches, out of the same mouth comes both blessing and curse. So if we're just going to let both of those things come out however they want from our mouths, sometimes blessing, sometimes curse, when we are giving the curses, that is going to overshadow the blessings we give and undercut the blessings we give. We need to focus on what it is we're really trying to produce with our faith and with our lives. If we're listening, it will show. And that many more of us will be living into our purpose of being very good, of blessing each other, of being living reflections of the image of God, of delivering God's love to anyone and everyone here on earth, simply for the good of creation, because that's what's good for us all. In our lives, it will show. It will be obvious how well we're listening to Lady Wisdom. So as we pray on the starting place of wisdom, the fear of the Lord, may we find our humility. May we find grace for ourselves and for others. May we find that love in our hearts that has the power to right wrongs in our lives and in this world. And may that love be felt throughout all creation.